Do you know what? Seeing that video at the beginning, I gets me so excited for the new season, honestly. Oh, yes, ladies and gents, welcome back to another Red or Alive podcast. A very sweaty and hottest one of the year. Ben, I know you were waiting for me to mention the heat because I'm absolutely sweltering with you in your air-conditioned office. I am buzzing to be joined by our two regular guests to chat the breaking news that's come out, talk about outgoings, and yes, of course, we will sprinkle in some Alexander Isak talk at some point because I know that's why everybody is here. Rick, I'll come to you because I know you are in an air-conditioned bedroom as well, aren't you?
No, this one ain't. This one's just got a fan that keeps pumping out hot air.
Oh, fair enough. Well, how are you, mate? Are you dying as much as I am?
Yeah, I can't deal with this. Ain't even nice heat. It's not even holiday heat either, is it? I mean, when you step off the plane, you don't get this. This is bad. Hopefully, it's just the next couple of days because, like, especially when you got no hair as well, you look like you're sweating bricks. Like, yeah, it's too much, mate.
Do you have to wipe the sun cream on the
top of your head? Mate, I went round to I had a barbecue last weekend, and it weren't as bad as it is today. But yeah, I had to slap some Factor 50 on it. Can't be having if I get a burnt head, it's done, mate. I might as well just wipe myself out for the week. Heat stroke.
Oh god, yeah, I couldn't imagine that. Ben, you're not quite as bold as that. How are you doing? And it's hot over with you as well, right?
47 degrees, lads. I don't know what you're moaning about.
Oh, don't start with
amateurs.
Sitting there with a jacket on, look.
Yeah, but you know, luxury of nice AC.
He's on a wind up. He is absolutely on a wind up.
Carry on from you, boys. Fuck me.
Oh, I'm not having it. Right, anyway. It's a British thing, isn't it? When it's hot, you moan. When it's cold, you moan. But right, let's crack on. So, today we're going to have a bit of an outgoing show. Obviously, Liverpool have gone a little bit quiet, understandably, on the incoming front. So there was a lot of business to be done over the next couple of weeks with regards to moving people on, which we're going to chat about today. Obviously, there are some bits of breaking news. I say breaking, I use the term loosely. There are bits of news, I should say, that have come out over the last few days since we went live on the weekend. First bit I'm going to talk about is he actually got mentioned a couple of times in the pod the other day, was young Naoni. Obviously, a youngster that people would have seen pop up in some of the cup games. Got a huge, the backroom staff of Liverpool seem to really like him, got big ambitions for him and hopes for him. It's been confirmed today that he has signed a new deal. Rick, obviously, we had a bit of a conversation off pod about him and seeing where he gets his chance of being able to showcase it. But, Naoni, new deal, good for the club. Kind of carrying on that conversation, where do you think he's going to get the opportunity this season ahead to showcase his ability and what he can do for Liverpool moving forward in the future? He's still a young boy, isn't he? So.
Yeah, I think he'll be in and around the squad, but I do still see it only being cup games for him. Let's be honest, he's not really going to displace Gravenberch, McAllister. You've even got Endo still there, Jones, Szoboszlai. So I do think it'll be the cup game for him, but it's a massive show of faith, really, from Liverpool, giving him a new long-term deal. I've never seen a youth player get a bit of behind-the-scenes video footage with him doing his new deal and stuff like that. So they obviously rate him highly. There's a few, obviously, in the youth team that they're fond of, him being probably the main one. Took him out of Leicester for what, was it, $1 million all in? So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how, because you can't stunt his development. If it's going to have to go on loan, he's going to have to go on loan because you don't want him to not play games. Like I said before we went live, you've got like Lewis Skelly at Arsenal, who's 18, the same age. Nawari as well at Arsenal, again, that same sort of age, getting more game time than him. So it's going to be interesting how Liverpool develop him moving forward. But yeah, I expect him in and around the squad.
Yeah, absolutely. Ben, bounce it to you. Naoni, obviously, young kid. I mean, he's only 18. I mean, to be 18 again, right? Great show of faith, like Rick just said. Obviously, he's got his extension that's been announced today. What do you see? I mean, do you think this season will be his breakthrough year? Do you think give him a couple more years? So it's still a young boy, but difficult midfield to break into, isn't it? What do you think the club's plans are for the kid moving forward this season and beyond?
I think you see him in a few of the cup games. He's very, very, really, rated highly. I know a few people that work at the club. You know, one in particular is a good friend of mine. Is Tui Fearon. He's non-stop talking about him. He said people don't realise how good this kid is. And look, at the end of the day, I think you've just got to give them half a chance. And now is the time where they probably start promoting them. And I can see Gary's comments in the chat as well with regards to Rio. I think he'd be in a similar boat as Trey this year. Look, when you've got talent like that in the youth setup, you've got to start giving them an opportunity to play a few games. And if you don't, then what's the point? I think that's been half the issues. You know, we had a chat today, didn't we, with regards to some of the kids that came through at Man City. And that's the reason that, because they never played them. Gone on to bigger and better things, you know, Musiala's of the world, etc. Now, obviously, I'm not saying Ione is Musiala as of now, but well, give them the opportunity, let them see what they can do. And, you know, it's proved that when Liverpool do that, good things can come from it, i.e. beating Chelsea in a final. So I'm excited for it. You know, you can't beat bringing youth through, and let's see what happens. But you are right, it's a tough midfield, but what a midfield it is to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to bring Kieran's coming up. So I was going to ask you this, Rick, and Kieran's popped in here. Do you think, do you think we'd be looking at a loan for him to try and get him those first 10 minutes? Because there has to come a point. He's obviously not going to come into the team this year, is he? Understandably. But there obviously has to be an opportunity for him to showcase what he can do. Do you see him going on loan? And if so, what level do you think Liverpool would look to get him at? Do you think Championship, maybe a bit lower, even higher?
I think it's got to be a Championship, top level Championship team, really. Or just that, like one of the playoff teams, maybe. That level, there's no point sending him to anything lower than that, because it might stunt his development a little bit in terms of the way we play. You've also got to look at the way we play. You'd want a team in the Championship potentially who sort of set up the same sort of way, so that he's playing a position that later on in his career will play for Liverpool. So it's going to, I'd maybe see how it goes from the summer window up to the January window. If he's not played as many games as maybe the club would like due to circumstances, maybe then you put him on loan in January for 6 months to the end of the season. But he definitely has to get game time this season, because you don't want him turning 19 and barely played. But again, he'll play every cup competition, Carabao Cup early rounds, FA Cup early rounds. And who knows, he might be one of them players that play throughout the whole competition in the League Cup. Because we've seen it with goalkeepers, certain strikers play majority of it as well. So again, it's going to be interesting, but for development, I'll definitely look for a loan, but it has to be the right one.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I mean, like I said, most of our conversation today is going to be on outgoings. I think a few of those are going to be the kids and talking about how and where they could go, how they get opportunities. So we'll move on to that shortly. But obviously, huge congratulations. Excited to see how his career unfolds. We should be as excited as the club are. So that's great news. Some other bits of news that have come out, and I am going to put a big pinch of salt warning on this, because it has not come from the most reliable of sources, but they are kind of intertwined. So I'm going to start with a couple of pieces of information that have come out today. One actually only 25 minutes before the podcast broke. I'm just going to read it off my screen from the Anfield Buzz, who are quoting the source here. That Newcastle United are now becoming increasingly attentive to Harvey Elliott's situation at Liverpool after missing out on João Pedro to Chelsea. Now, obviously, that follows up with the news that also came out again, pinch of salt with regards to the source, that Alexander Isak has requested that he can leave Newcastle, and that any deal to acquire Alexander Isak's signature would be looking at maximum, it's been stated, figure of £130 million. Ben, now I'm going to go to this Harvey Elliott news first. Hypothetically, if this is the case and they are looking at Harvey Elliott, I mean, there is a very obvious scenario at play here, isn't there? If that is the case, can you see Harvey Elliott potentially being key to Liverpool doing a deal for Alexander Isak?
I definitely think he is a player of interest, so why not? So what I mean, you can't have it all your own way. They know as soon as they start mentioning bringing, Elliott to Newcastle, well, the conversation's going to be sent back, isn't it? Well, we want the fella down the middle. So I definitely think it could be an option. Look, one thing's for sure is Harvey Elliott recently has done himself very well. he's boosted up his profile with obviously the England's under-21s. I think I said it on the podcast here. I said regardless of the Isak stuff, I always felt Newcastle would be a club that would be in for him. And I do think he could do a job on the right-hand side for them, because I think he's a much better player than that Murphy. The problem with Harvey Elliott is just getting the games. You know, when he has come on for Liverpool, make no mistake about it, he's been impressive at times. He's won games for Liverpool. You've got to remember Palace away and stuff like that. So I definitely think it would be a good club for him, and a much better club than some of the clubs that have been linked. I don't buy all that stuff with like Leipzig and stuff. I just don't think he fancies it, because he's already turned Leverkusen down. I think, like with regards to Elliott, a Premier League club is key for him, and a good one as well. And I think Newcastle could be right up there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Rick, I mean, putting Isak to the side, because I don't want you to start sweating even more than you are. Harvey Elliott to Newcastle as a separate deal. I mean, that would be a pretty good move for him, wouldn't it? To go up there, Champions League football, exciting project. Obviously, we know about the ownership and the money they've got behind them. Eddie Howe's doing well. Do you think that would be a good move for Harvey? And then, what do you think he would take to Newcastle?
Yeah, I just think he's in the Liverpool squad at the wrong time. With certain types of players, we've got Szoboszlai, is a bit more athletic than Elliott, bit of I won't say more hard working, but he's a bit more mobile, gets around the pitch a little bit more. You've obviously got Bertz coming in as well, who's a bit more. Listen, Bertz is one of the top 3 in the world in that position that he's in. And it's where do you fit Elliott? We've tried him in so many different positions. He's not a right winger for me at Liverpool's level. And I think Harvey Elliott's a good player. He just lacks pace. If he had a bit more pace, he could be a frightening player. We've seen, like Ben said, he's won games Palace away, last sort of kick of the game. He's got a shot on him. We've seen it against his Spurs as well. He had a shot against, and it went top bins as well. So we know what Harvey Elliott's got. It's just finding him now the right club. He's not a centre midfielder to sit deep and dictate play. He's not that player. So like a team like Brighton, Newcastle, Villa would have been good for him, but they've got Morgan Rogers there. And like Ben said, he's better than Jacob Murphy at right wing for Newcastle, in my opinion. But the price has got to be right. You're seeing silly prices banded around for players that ain't even Harvey Elliott's level. Like, we're talking 60 mil for these sort of players, and Liverpool are only like getting 40, 45 million sort of inquiries from Premier League teams. He won't go abroad, I don't think. He's turned down Leverkusen, so he's not going to go Leipzig. I don't think he suits the Italian league. Apparently Fiorentina were looking at him. Fiorentina ain't got the money. Listen, if Napoli ain't got the money for Darwin Núñez, Fiorentina definitely ain't got the money for Harvey Elliott. So it's going to be interesting. If Newcastle are really genuinely interested, that then opens the door for a conversation about Isak in the same room. So it breaks that sort of barrier down. And yeah, it would be a separate deal. There wouldn't be a player plus cash, especially someone like Harvey Elliott, who's homegrown, counts as pure profit. It's different if you offer Jota as part of the deal for Isak than it would if you offered Elliott as part of it because of the PSR reasons. But yeah, hopefully he gets the right move. He had a good Euros. I'm not buying this. There was reasons why he was level above everyone in this Euros. It's because of the age, the team he plays for, the competitions we play in, the type of football we play, the teams we play against. So he's obviously going to be a level above most of the 21s. But yeah, hopefully it works out for him and he gets the move he deserves.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, I just have to comment from front. Yeah, I mean, look, technically you don't see those swap deals go through, but I mean, Jarell Quansah is a prime example.
Yeah.
You know, Florian Wirtz's deal was obviously inclusive of Jarell Quansah, but for everybody involved and PSR, it's easier to put them through as two separate deals, which is what you would see here. I think you'd see probably Harvey Elliott move to Newcastle and then very quickly Isak to Liverpool, vice versa. But yeah, I mean, we had this conversation about Harvey earlier with a couple of lads in the comments and in the group chats, Ben, about, and Rick just mentioned it, about his value. And it's quite a weird one, isn't it? Because, you know, he's abundantly clear he doesn't fit at Liverpool. And the fact that he is for sale probably isn't a secret now, which does play into his valuation. He's a top talent, Harvey Elliott. He's a young kid. He's obviously now just got the, big shout out to obviously him, Quansah and Morton for the under-21 winning the Euros. That's a huge achievement for those boys. But he's obviously put that under his belt. As Rick said, he was levels above. When you look at some of the players that were involved or lack of involvement, you're looking at Wanyeri at Arsenal. He's outperformed them in this competition. What do you think is a realistic valuation for Harvey Elliott this summer? I don't know, Rick said, I think we take out Serie A clubs, etc. But if you were the sporting director at Liverpool and you were moving him on, what are you looking for cash-wise for Elliott?
Look, I think if you could factor in that Gittins is going for about 55 million quid, I think he should be in and around there. And especially because he's English, because look, if the shoe was on the other foot, we're talking have to pay 50, 60 million quid for him. Let's make no mistake about it. Maybe we won't get the 60, but I mean, 50 million plus a bit of add-ons is probably reasonable. Do you know what I mean? And certainly with the money that these clubs have got in England, I think they'd be easily able to pay for them. Do you know what I mean? If people are going to start saying 35, 40 million for Harvey Elliott, I'd sooner fucking keep him. I genuinely would. It's not worth letting these clubs, because they'd be taking a top talent. Let's make no mistake about it. And it's not worth giving it away. So, look, if someone's got, I think about 50, 55 million, Liverpool would deal on it. And I just don't think they'll be 45 at a worst case. But ultimately, anything lower than that, they may as well just sit on it.
Do you put a buyback in there?
I just don't know if he'd be the player that Liverpool would go back to. Generally, I don't. I think with Quansah, with the height and everything that he's got, I think it could be a big trait that they could see in the future, and he'd have to pull up some certain trees for them to go back. I just don't think it'd ever work for Harvey at Liverpool, personally. But I do think they'd be looking at a sell-on, because I do think a top club could go for him. I just don't think Liverpool would. Yeah,
Rick, for you, this question here, this is comment here. This is an interesting one from Kieran. Harvey playing deeper at Brighton next to Labour. Is that a position you can see Harvey playing?
No, because I don't think he's got the defensive capabilities to do a role like that. It's different when it was McAllister and Caicedo at Brighton. They could both defend. Elliott ain't got the athleticism to be in that role, to get around the pitch and that. He suits a 10 role, or at best a right winger role at a certain club, but he's definitely a 10 who can sort of get on the ball and pick that final pass. I wouldn't have him anywhere deep at all.
Yeah. Ben?
What?
Deeper role?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you because it broke up.
Harvey, deeper role for Brighton next to Baleba?
I do think he could do it, because it probably suits him a bit more being next to someone who can get around the pitch a lot. But I just think with him, he wants to be active further up. I just think he'd prefer to play further up as opposed to that McAllister role at Liverpool right now.
I think this shout out Jamie. Bring up this comment here, because I put a tweet up about a week ago talking about the fact that if he stays, where does he play? He thinks Elliott stays. And listen, from a selfish perspective, I would love Harvey Elliott to stay and be in the squad going next season. He can't afford to do that, can he? He's lost. Unfortunately, he had that horrific injury a couple of seasons ago. Away to Leeds, built himself back up, got back in the team. He got an injury at the just wrong time for Liverpool this year and hasn't been able to get into slot squad. Rick, I mean, at that point, if he were to stay, Liverpool have just spent 100 and whatever it is, 100 billion plus add-ons, 16.5 on Florian Wirtz. They've got Frimpong and Salah that are going to cover the right wing. There's two areas that he plays. It would just be at this point, number one, selfish for us for him to stay, but it would be detrimental for Liverpool's fee to sell him, but also for his development, wouldn't it? If you imagine having that under-21 tournament that he's had, his stock is very high even after the season he's had, to then sit on the bench. It wouldn't be the right move, would it, for him if he does stay at Liverpool?
No, because he don't make no match day squads. So what is the point of him being here? Because, like you said, Frimpong and Salah have got the right wing covered. Wirtz and Dom have got the number 10 role covered. McAllister, Gravenberch, Endo and Jones have got that midfield sorted. So where does he fit in? He's not a striker. Although we played the likes of, like on the left wing, you've got Diaz and Gakpo. So for me, Elliott don't even make a match day squad going forward, which is quite harsh because, like you said, he had a good under-21 tournament. I think he scored 5 goals, was it, in the tournament in 6 games? So it's massive for him there. Yeah, good. Like, listen, that should add value to his transfer valuation. But it's not how it always works. But yeah, again, he don't make a match day squad, so it will be harsh to keep him. When I think if worst comes to worst, Liverpool would take the 35, 40 million rather than keeping him around the club.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for example, if you look at him, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but Gavi at Barcelona, I don't think he's played as much probably as he would have wanted to at Barca this season. If Barca were to put Gavi on the market and he had a tournament in an under-21 tournament that Harvey Elliott's just had, because he's Spanish, because of Barcelona, the hype around him and some of the price tags that would be thrown around would be astronomical. So I think there has to be an acknowledgement that Harvey, albeit he's not right for Liverpool, he's a top player. And you know, Lad, shout out to you, mate. You know, what he said there, and Simon Jordan, we know he's a bit controversial, but he's absolutely spot on with what he says there. That there isn't a direction, there isn't a clear path for Elliott. He's at such a pivotal part of his career now that just sitting and waiting on the bench would be such a silly move for him. As selfishly, you'd love him to stay and fill in as and when, but it's not the right move. So I think we're probably all in agreement that it would be the right thing for him to move on. And obviously, Vert's coming.
And also, Liverpool probably see massive value now with the money because of what they want to got, the plans that they've got. The money will be seen as so much more valuable than keeping a player just for the sake of it.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. Liverpool got to look at it from a business perspective. You leave him on the bench another year. There's no, you know, his price is going to plummet. Kieran's he's doubling down on this double pivot with Baleba, Xavi and Iniesta.
Yeah, but them two were also better on the ball than Harvey Elliott in terms of dribbling. Them two could get out of tight spaces. Harvey Elliott won't get you out one because he's not mobile enough. These two could. I mean, listen, them two there are two of the best midfielders that have ever played the game. I don't think you can compare Harvey to them two. Like Harvey, I think the two, the regens of Iniesta and Xavi are Gavi and Pedri, aren't they? Let's be honest. They are the two regens that are seen similar to them. Harvey Elliott is not on the level of Pedri or Gavi. So he don't fit. Like, I like it. I like Elliott. I think he could be a top talent, but there's a pecking order, and he's below them two as well in that type of position. Like if we brought Gavi in, say hypothetically we brought Gavi in, he'd be challenging the midfielders that we've got now. Harvey Elliott can't do that.
I don't think he would.
Who, Gavi?
I don't disagree that he's probably a little bit further ahead than Elliott, but I don't think Gavi's coming in and challenging Verts, McAllister, Gravenberch. I think he's probably in between them. I think you probably go Elliott, Gavi.
Not many fucking players are.
No, that's a top midfield. That is a top midfield. And this is just on the final bit with Elliott as well, because this is a conversation I've been embroiled in. You boys have been embroiled in. They don't play the same position per se. Obviously, we know Jones is predominantly more off the left, even if he's in the middle, he's the left. He's obviously off the right side. Curtis Jones is probably the polarising player in the Liverpool squad. He's a talented boy, Jones, but he's also in a similar position where his position is not guaranteed at Liverpool. And there's obviously only one spot for a player that maybe lack that pace, but is probably technically on the ball a nice player. Rick and Ben, who are you giving that spot to? Ben, I'll come to you first. That one spot in the squad, and it's a little bit, like I said, it's a little bit of a square peg round hole, so different. But just hypothetically, Elliott or Jones?
For the all-round trait, I'd say Curtis Jones. Personally, look, don't get me wrong. Harvey Elliott is a top player, but Curtis Jones probably ticks a lot more boxes for Liverpool. He's got more athleticism. You know, he's now scoring goals. He can play further up. He can play deeper. And the club know he can play deeper. Mate, he was playing like right wing. He's played left wing. He's played right back at one point last season. Do you know what I mean? So,
for England as well.
They can utilise Jones.
Yeah, played right back for England as well.
Yeah.
Rick, same, Curtis Jones?
Yeah, Curtis Jones for me, but purely because he can play more positions than Harvey Elliott. Harvey Elliott's a bit more one-dimensional, where Jones can play deeper, play further forward. He can play wider. Like you said, he played right back for England, keeping that rat out of right back as well. So yeah, and I also think Elliott will cost more. So I think it's easier to sell Elliott than Jones because you get more money from him.
Yeah, Yeah, fair enough. I mean, got Gary's campaigning for the Elliott stay. Both, but yeah, I mean, I would agree. I think he's and Connor here. Shout out, mate. Yeah, Elliott and Jones. But it's, I think when you are in the position they're in, I think versatility is so important. When you're a top player, i.e. Salah, Virgil, and you're guaranteed to play, you can have that one set position. I think when you're in and out of the team, I think that versatility just gives you that edge to stay. I do also agree with this, though. I do think Elliott will have a higher ceiling.
Oh, yeah, 100%. 100%.
He will. But yeah, I mean, we'll move on from Elliott now. So yeah, please smash the like, comment, subs, please, ladies and gents. It does the algorithm for the channel the world of good. But obviously, we got a few more conversations around those kind of players shortly. I just want to cover some of the other news that has come out as well. Again, please take with a pinch of salt. But Florian Plettenberg, our Versus best friend, has come out and said that Bayern have added Luis Diaz to their shortlist. Now, I think between him and Christian Falk, they have probably covered every left wing on the planet at this point that Bayern have been linked with. But Luis Diaz, I mean, we'll go on to him. Yeah, a few people have put a certain name for him, but I'm going to behave myself. Luis Diaz is going to be, and I'll move on to this as a general conversation as well with regards to his outgoing. He threatens to be maybe one of the outgoing sagas of the summer. Rick, do you see Luis Diaz? I know we've had this conversation. Do you see him going? Ben, stop laughing. Rick, do you see him going? And secondly, do you think it's more likely that he will stay in the European top league as opposed to the Saudi move if he does go?
I think he only goes if the price is right, because Liverpool are willing to let him go for free when his contract runs out, because he is on peanuts and he compared to everyone else. But again, this Plettenberg, he's linked every geezer to Bayern Munich this summer. I mean, what winger in world football has not been linked to Bayern Munich? I mean, who is it? We was in the WhatsApp group, and I think every 2 seconds we put in there a new left winger linked. Leao, Diaz, Gakpo, Nico Williams,
Barcola.
Who else has he put in there?
But I'm pretty sure every left winger on the planet is linked with. Christian Falk was the first. I mean, I suppose you could only say, I know they're not, like I said, I mean, in great respect to what they do, but I know probably for Premier League clubs they may not be the best sources, but
now they must DM each other in the morning if who's going to be the stupid one today out of the two.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, do you maybe hope that the fact that they both are running this story might give it a little bit more credit that maybe Diaz genuinely is of interest to buy it, or do you think it's
because Verts has killed Plettenberg. I mean, the credibility of the geezer, he's got no credit. He also said, what was it? Alonso's going Bayern Munich, Verts is going Bayern Munich. These 400 wingers look like they're going Bayern Munich. So I'll take it with a pinch of salt, whatever that geezer says. And he's made Christian Falk as well. I mean, again, he was the one that we put in the WhatsApp group where he put about 600 wingers. And so I pull one out of a hat today. Who do you think it will be? It's, between Bayern Munich linked to all these wingers and Chelsea signing 50 strikers and 50 wingers.
Oh, that was another one. Buy no Gittins. That was another one.
Yeah, that was it. Gittins. What was I read today where Gittins, they tried to hijack Gittins' latest move, but they were too late. Too late is because Plettenberg and Christian Falk were too busy tweeting the 400 other names out before they got to him. So it's mad.
Yeah, he has put, after Rick's glowing recommendation of Plettenberg there, he's also put out another bit of news that as well as a striker, Liverpool are going to look at a top left winger. Looking from a Liverpool perspective, that would probably, again, if that is true, pinch of salt, the Luis Diaz would be moving on. You can't see him stockpiling 3 unless Diaz, were to move in the middle. I just want to get your take, firstly, on the Luis Diaz saga that is kind of turning into a little bit. It's not, nothing major. Obviously, the Colombian sources have come out in the last week, as we know, we covered on the last pod. What do you think happens with Luis Diaz? Do you think he does go? And if he does, do you think it's more likely that he stays in the European top leagues, or do you think Saudi will come calling and ultimately ends up there?
Oof, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I think because of the age of Diaz, the move that he wants, the Barcelona, doesn't seem to be appearing. It's kind of had its shot, but never worked. They seem like they've got other things on their mind now. I seriously think, I don't think he'll go Bayern Munich because they'd seriously have to offer him a package that was unbelievably so good that he couldn't turn down. Whereas I just think the Saudis are going to come in now. It's been simmering for a little bit. I think they're going to go all out. They're seeming to not get their ways at the minute. I think a big moving factor with Saudi is the fact that they're losing John Duran, where they've just lost him on loan. They need to pull someone in big, and I think they're going to go all out. I personally think for Luis Diaz. And what I would personally gain from that is as well, I know someone that always sees Diaz and a fellow friend of his in Darwin Núñez. Diaz goes there, I could see Darwin Núñez kind of getting a little thing to go to Saudi then. So I know how close they are outside of football. And it doesn't surprise me that the deal hasn't transpired as of yet with Napoli. Because you've got to remember, players will go, certainly if it's Saudi, they'd rather go with the mates than as opposed to going on their own. So that also wouldn't shock me. I think he'll go Saudi, Luis Diaz. I'll be honest with you, I think Liverpool are banking on both of them going because they've got something big in their sights, Liverpool. I know we'll probably touch on it, but at the end of the day, it's a lot more stronger, the financial power of them. The three players that I've just spoke of with you there, Elliott, Diaz and Núñez. I think Liverpool get that done. They could do whatever they want going forward on the attack.
Yeah, I do agree. I think there's a lot of moving parts in the market this year. Internally at Liverpool, we spoke about the number 9 market, which still hasn't moved. Rick, I kind of want to ask you as well. I mean, I don't want to touch too much on incoming today, because obviously we'll do that a bit later in the week. But he's alluding to the fact that Liverpool are looking at a striker and a left winger, so the both. So that would, like I said, Diaz would be going in that instance. Again, if that is the case, do you think Liverpool have got somebody earmarked for that left wing position? If so, who do you think the club would be looking at?
I don't know. I mean, who's better at it than Luis Diaz at the minute? A left wing. Nico Williams only seems to turn into a half decent player when he's playing for Spain. Who else is there? Anthony Gordon, I think, would cost more than what Luis Diaz would if we wanted him.
Rodrigo.
I'd like, listen, other WhatsApp groups, I mean, I'd love Rodrigo at Liverpool. I just think you'd need a lot to go towards getting that deal done. Because obviously you'd have Arsenal in there, who would I'd probably put Arsenal heavier favourites for Rodrigo than Liverpool, just purely on he'll play for Arsenal. Like,
see,
obviously,
that Rodrigo one, sorry to interrupt, Rick, but that I said to you boys before the pod, that Rodrigo one stinks to me of one of those deals where there's a name in the media, Arsenal linked with him. He officially goes to the market, Liverpool will just go bang, and it will just come out of nowhere. Liverpool won't get it.
He seems like a deadline day deal, Rodrigo from Real Madrid. But like, I could not tell you who's a better left winger in world football in a minute than Kvaratskhelia at PSG. Who's better than Diaz?
And I don't believe it's that Fofana to take over Diaz. No way. I don't believe that. He would be more like a Chiesa deal. I know I'm mentioning it because of the comments and the thing. There's no way Liverpool move on Diaz to bring in a young kid like that.
See, that Malik Fofana, again, I'm happy people, because I don't know much about this Fofana, long term I do, so in the comments, please do correct me if I'm wrong. He's a right winger. I saw people saying he's not actually a left winger, he's a right winger.
Yeah, he's right winger.
So, because for me, if you're going, if you're going to stockpile 2 first teamers at left wing, whether it's Diaz and Gakpo, or Gakpo and said new person, that for me, position, if you're going to put a kid in that role, you've got to be surely looking at Rio from the academy at that point. If someone's put Barcola there, I agree with what happened. If I could get Barcola, I would. I think his finishing's a little bit rash, but I think he's a top player. But I think by all accounts, PSG are keeping hold of him. Obviously, Gary's put here that Rodrigo's a non-starter. I think Gary's going to be waiting a long time, mate, for a new deal at Real Madrid. He's just not in favour very much of Real Madrid. Alonso's coming, and he still doesn't seem to be breaking into it.
I think that with regards to Rodrigo non-starter, I know it doesn't look like he's ready to move at the minute, but that just could be because it's Arsenal. We've had this chat on here. If you're a forward player and you're going to Arsenal, the question to the club is, how sure are you that we're going to win? And it doesn't look like they give any assurances at the minute. Remember, they're going up against Liverpool and Man City. Do you know what I mean? So to a top player who'd be leaving, for instance, Real Madrid to go somewhere, he wants to make sure that he's going to a club that's going to win. And I think, for instance, if Liverpool wanted Rodrigo, I think they'd be able to get him.
Yeah, I said, we talked about this before. Edwards seems to be, now listen, I don't have a speed line into Edwards, and I can't speak now, but obviously it was well documented that Rodrigo was a massive favourite of the dating nerds. I mean, Rodrigo himself, I think, has come out and said that he was actually very close to signing for Liverpool and then decided to obviously to not, and then move to Real Madrid following that. So we know Edwards and the team are known for going back in for targets, providing they don't shaft Liverpool, if they don't make the move. It's definitely one I could see Rodrigo. I think the timelines match up. Rodrigo's not urgently on the market at the moment. They're also going to get the Club World Cup out of the way. They're going to start their pre-season, see how it looks. He's probably going to want a holiday, etc. And I think with Liverpool selling, the timelines probably match up quite well to revisit a deal or visit a deal later in the summer. Gary, we're going to go on. Jayden Downs is absolutely on the agenda shortly to talk about with some others. As I don't want to turn this into an incoming show because we're going to do one of them a bit later in the week. But because by all accounts, if media is to be believed, the PSR deadline resets tomorrow, 1st of July. And there apparently is a lot of deals pending that deadline. So watch this space on that one. But obviously, Luis Diaz, so obviously waits to be seen kind of what happens with him. But obviously, we'll talk about some other outgoings. So one deal that does look like it's set to be announced at any point now, outgoing-wise, obviously Jarell Quansah to buy Leverkusen. He flew in today and done probably one of the quickest medicals I've ever seen. But about 9:30 UK time, it had been reported that he'd done the first half of his medical. So I don't know if the first part was checking that he had active limbs. I don't know, but sounds like that was moving quite quickly, and I anticipate obviously that to be announced in the next 24 hours. But Rick, I mean, Quansah again is another quite polarizing figure, isn't he, in the fan base? He had a really good breakthrough season with Jurgen Klopp, and then he just towards the end of last season, not the last one, the one before, obviously had that mistake at Old Trafford that cost Liverpool the game. It seemed to affect him, as you may expect with a younger kid, and never quite got back to that confident young centre-back we saw. Obviously, Liverpool have covered themselves. They put a buyback clause in. What's your feeling about Quansah going? Do you think for him, for the club, is it the right move that he goes this summer?
Yeah, I don't think he's good enough. Especially at the age he is, he needs to be playing regular football to try and reach the ceiling that Liverpool thought he had, or still think he has. They must still think he's capable of something by putting a buyback in there. But again, it's just smart business by putting a buyback in there for someone of a centre-back where there's not that many top centre-back talents out there. So it allows you to bring him back if the data matches in a couple of years' time. I think it's from 2027 that you can activate that from. Leverkusen's a good move for him. One of the top teams in Germany. They won the league, not the year, just finished the one before. Obviously, they're going for a bit of a revamp with players as well. But yeah, I just think after the Ipswich game at the start of last season, the writing was on the wall for him. Slot don't rate him as highly as others. And obviously, I think if we had more centre-back options at the club, I don't think Quansah would have got as many game time last season as he did. I've seen people moan about the price. I mean, how can you moan up 30 to 35 million for Quansah?
No. I'll bounce that to you, Ben. Price. 30 million plus 5. Fair price?
Fair price, definitely is, yeah. A player that's hardly played much. Obviously, he's not fancied. And obviously, they've got the buyback. How can you go wrong? How can you complain with that? He's going in there as a starter, so, that's the best guarantee that you can kind of get, because he wouldn't have went there if he wasn't going to play. A loan wouldn't have worked. And at the end of the day, the same with the serious talk we just had on Elliott, Liverpool may as well get them out and use the money.
Yeah. I think the buyback's got to be taken into account because if you're going to put a buyback and then demand they pay 55 million quid, how much do you think the buyback's going to be? The buyback can at least probably be under double. So, but Rick, I mean, how do you think he'll get on in the German league? You think it's a good move for him going over there, or would you like to have seen him in the Premier League?
I think he'll do well there. It's not exactly blistering and pace over there. It's a bit of slower tempo than the Prem. Quansah didn't really have that much of pace, like recovery pace. You see him trying to run back if teams broke through. But yeah, I think he's Jonathan Tah's replacement at Leverkusen. He's gone Bayern Munich now. So listen, he's got the height in him, Quansah. So that's a plus for him. Like, there's not many centre backs out there with that height. But yeah, someone Ross has put there the PSR perspective of selling Quansah for 30 mil allows Liverpool to spend close to 100 million over the next 3 years. So unless this PSR thing is the last one. Once his PSR 3 years are done, it's gone. It then goes to, is it SSR? Well, I'm not fully understandable of what that is. It's something to do with your squad overall price and stuff like that. But that's why I think Liverpool are going big now, because of the PSR. They're allowed to spend, and then that squad management thing comes in, and we're good there. But going back to Quansah, I think it's a good move. If he's got any hopes of wanting to play for England one day at the World Cup, Euros, England are not blessed with centre-halves at the minute. It's probably the worst position we have. So who knows? He could have a decent season and get into the World Cup squad in 2026.
Yeah, well, that's got to be. We spoke about Elliott earlier. These players do have their own careers to look at. We talk a lot of the time from a selfish fan perspective of squad depth. Keeping squad depth, keep them in the squad. They can play the cup games. They shouldn't be doing that. If that was their mentality, I'd be more concerned than if they're pushing for a move. These kind of players, so they have to want to play. And just bringing up Gary's point there, kind of what we said. Yeah, he made a great start under Jurgen Ben. I don't want to say where did it go wrong, because I feel like that would be doing a disservice to him. He wasn't as bad as I think as maybe some people make out, but he definitely did drop, and he definitely did look like he lost some confidence. What do you think the turning point for Quansah was? And do you think that first game under Slot, where he got pulled at halftime against Ipswich, do you think that was the writing on the wall?
Yeah, I just think, it was always then difficult for him to get back in, wasn't it? Because remember, you think towards the end of last season, the season just got, not the one just gone, so the one before, in Jurgen's last one, I think Konate had a bit of a stumbling block, didn't he, towards the end? And he recovered really well in the second half at Ipswich. But ultimately, look, I think he started off well because he went in there probably with a bit of confidence with Jurgen, had nothing to lose. But then the more games he played, mistakes started, cropping up, and it's the end of players then, isn't it? I just don't think he really handled himself well at recovering from mistakes. I was there at many games that he started doing them in, and he was gone then. You could see it. You knew he weren't going to be a long-term player at Liverpool. I don't think he had the capabilities to be anyway. As we all know, obviously they've now got rid of him. Yeah. I think the German league will be perfect for him, slower paced. And look, ultimately, the only way he'll get better is by starting every week. So, look, fair play to him. Good luck, and see how he gets on.
Yeah, actually that. Yeah, good luck to him. Young kid, he's obviously coming off the back of a really good under-21 win. So, fingers crossed. I mean, if we activate his buyback, it means he's done well. So that will follow his career with excitement to see how he gets on. We'll just quickly fire through. I appreciate, obviously, it's hot. People are going to want to go out to the beer garden, so we're not going to keep people watching too long. But a few more names, obviously, that are going to be mentioned with the exit door. Two more kind of big first teamers. I'll start with Ibrahim Konate, and again, pinch of salt. But an article came out the other day from Santi. I don't have to excuse me. I don't know his surname, but renowned for getting called out by Salah's agent for fabricating stories. But obviously, a French journalist has said that Ibrahim Konate is looking to leave Liverpool Football Club at the end of his contract, which is next summer. And his preference is Real Madrid. Rick, take the article out of it, but your gut feeling, Konate, what do you think he stays? Do you think there's possibility he stays? Do you think Real Madrid have been in his ear? Just give me your kind of summary on the whole scenario around Konate and what you think happens and how it plays out.
Yeah, I think we have to take with a pinch of salt what comes out about Konate. He said himself that whatever you read ain't always the truth, but I do think he goes for free. And I think it'll be to either Madrid or PSG. I think it'll be more PSG because he's a local lad from there. Wants to probably captain them one day in the big competitions while they've got a decent squad. For me, they're probably the best team in world football in a minute. So to go and play in that as well and captain them might be a dream come true for him. But I also think Liverpool in a position where they probably won't be too fussed if you win on a free as well. Like I keep saying it, FSG don't care if players run their contracts down and go for free because they see it as you fulfilled your duty, you fulfilled your contract that we put you in. Like they've done it with Emery Khan, Gini Wijnaldum, Bobby Firmino. Trent was a different situation in total. Henderson. Who else? I'm probably missing someone else, but I can see Konate again the same way. I'd rather Konate stay and go for free if it meant we could potentially win the Prem and the Champions League with him in it than letting him go now for 20 mil that you probably get with 1 year left and then having to try and find a replacement like Guy from Palace. But I just think Konate's a little bit more experienced in the bigger games than Guay. So if you can keep him for a season, then win what we win, then he goes for free. It is what it is, and it'll be a rat as well, but it is what it is.
Yeah, Ben, I don't want him to go on a free. I do think he will go on a free. I think there would be a lot more understanding if he does that to Paris Saint-Germain than Real Madrid. He's a PSG boy. He's a fan of the club. But I just want to get your overall thoughts on it. If you heard anything on Konate, there was an article end of May, I think, from the Echo saying that they thought it'd been a positive development. But just your thoughts, mate. Konate, does he stay? Does he go? And obviously, if he goes, what do you think? Where do you think he goes?
Well, I think if he was to go, if he was going now, he'd be a lot more than 20 million. I know Rick's just said 20 million with a year left. Fucking hell, we're trying to get a player from Palace. If we were lucky to get him for 20 million, then fuck me, do you know what I mean?
English tax, don't it?
Yeah, but it doesn't really matter, lads. It's simple as that. There's English tax, and then there's also Konate on his days world class. Let's make no mistake about it. So he's a fucking Premier League champion, do you know what I mean? So, and he's won many other honours with Liverpool. So simple facts, it'd be a lot more than that. But look, I personally think he will stay. Just hand on heart. I'm hoping that the character that we see from him, he isn't the type to just drop Liverpool like a bag of shit. Because ultimately, I know this may sound biased, but I don't see there's many footballing projects better than ours right now. I'm not just saying that. I think we're at the top. On our given day, we could have beat Paris Saint-Germain that night at Anfield. So, we could be sat here Premier League and Champions League winners. So, at the end of the day, I'm hoping it will get resolved. I think Liverpool want to get it resolved as well. Because ultimately, you can't just be chasing your tail every summer having to replace a player that's gone for free. So I think I don't ever believe the money is an issue. I think you'll get a good package. Maybe it's assurances with regards to maybe what happens after Van Dijk, blah, blah, blah. Who knows? But I think he will stay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. No, I don't think you're being biased. It's not very often. I'm 32 years old. I know you boys are around the same age. It's not very often where I think we've sat in a position where we could probably say Liverpool project is as exciting, if not more, than Real Madrid. Real Madrid are going down that very odd route of Galacticos again, and it didn't work before, and it's not working for them now. So we'll see what Xabi Alonso does, but we'll have to wait and see on him. I think he goes, but people seem to get upset when I say that, so I'm going to keep quiet. But I'm going to bring this. So Amirali's just brought this up, and I've just had it sent to me on WhatsApp as well. We were going to try and do outgoings, but incomings is just what everyone loves. So this has just come out now again. Wettenberg, so please take it with a pinch of salt. But Liverpool are currently focusing on 3 concrete options in their search for a new number 9, which is obviously Hugo Ekitike, Alexander Isak, and interestingly, Victor Osimhen. LFC have conducted checks and gathered infos, which you'd expect as part of the window anyway. Look, I mean, Ekitike and Isak, that's not breaking news. I think, people on the street who don't follow football at this point know Liverpool are interested in Isak and Ekitike. But Osimhen is one that obviously Di Marzio said earlier as well. Ben made a good point that he was making that report to a betting channel. So, again, a huge pinch of salt. But Italian club, he does have some credibility with regards to Italian football. Rick, Victor Osimhen, that's a deal that can be done. We know that they want Nunes. We know that he wants to leave. We know that they're going to sell him. Is that a deal you could see Liverpool doing? And if so, how does that deal with Napoli look?
I think he would be the third out of them three names that would potentially go for. The deal Napoli, I think, would want would be Nunes and Chiesa, and 16 million. I think I read it somewhere, which I think is madness. I honestly don't think we probably looked at him, probably looked at the numbers and the data, and I just don't think Liverpool would be interested in someone like Osimhen because I don't think he just suits the whole squad dynamic of a sort of team playerish type player. I just think he'd come in and start. Listen, no one. There's rumours that he won't pass the dickhead test, but you've seen videos of him with fans, with kids signing shirts and that. So obviously it's not that. I don't know this. Why is there not all the top teams going for him? There's got to be something near.
Probably the number 9 market is not moving in general.
No.
Because we say that, but no one's moved on Gyökeres. No one's made an official move on Isak. No one's moved on Ekitike. No one's moved on to the whole 9 market is just everyone wants.
I think they're waiting to see what Liverpool do. I mean, Chelsea can sign as many strikers as they want. They're not getting the top targets. You can offer them 8-9 year deals all you like. You're not getting the big boy number 9s. I think Arsenal are scared to pull the trigger on someone because obviously Arteta wants one, that Berta wants the other one. United have got that yard dog up front, and they can't shift him on to go get another striker. Gyökeres, there's obviously something off there, although his numbers are banging in Portugal, but there's something off there. I think maybe his age, he ain't the right profile. So I just think they're waiting for Liverpool to go for someone because I think it sets Arsenal up. If Liverpool pull the trigger on Ekitike, they know we're not getting Isak. They could potentially try. I probably won't get him, but then it leaves them with just Gyökeres and Sesko. I'm surprised Sesko ain't come out in Plettenberg because he loves linking players to every team going. But Sesko's another one that ain't a profile Liverpool should go on. 13 league goals last season. We shouldn't be going for these project strikers, if you want to call it that. We need the real deal. And like you said, there ain't many out there. So I think Isak is the only one if you're going for someone like that. But I think every other club.
It's a finished article, though, Rick.
He is. But I think his wage demands would be a little bit more than what the other 3 or 4.
You've got to remember, though, Rick, because he is a finished article, he can ask for whatever fucking wages he wants.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Not many fucking out there, are they?
100%, but I also don't think Liverpool go for him because AFCON. Fucking hell, you can't lose Salah and him in a front 3.
Thing is, I think what Marcus has said here, this is it. The problem is I think the first move dictates the rest of the market. If one of the clubs decides to just shit the bed and go early and pay a stupid fee, for example, let's just say Chelsea, I don't think they will now, but say they went all right and paid the Ekitike fee at 90 million euros, then you're going to have Napoli put their stall out for Osimhen. You're going to have Sesko. So I think there's almost an unofficial pact between your Liverpools, Arsenals, Uniteds, Chelseas, where they're all kind of the agreement that we're all fishing in this same pool of players, but we all agreed that they're way overpriced. So just nobody move and just keep the pressure on until later in the market. But this Osimhen one, Ben, is one we've had a conversation about many times now at this point. And one thing I want to say about, because we had this conversation on the pod, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, about his move to Galatasaray, and we were a bit unsure around the scenario with it. But Galatasaray found it very kindly kind of made us aware that, obviously Antonio Conte had come in and Osimhen was no longer in his plans. That conversation took place outside of the transfer window. for the major leagues, in which Galatasaray were probably the best option that he could have go to, and that's no disrespect to Galatasaray whatsoever. But this is a thing that it's not quite going away, is it? You know, the big Liverpool journalists haven't shot it down. The smaller journalists keep mentioning it; they keep talking it up. At some point, we're going to have to take this rumor seriously, aren't we, with Osimhen?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. But the thing is, though, it's not going away is because Liverpool haven't done the deal yet with Napoli. That's probably the reason why. This deal would have been done by now, with Napoli. Then you could kind of shut up that rumour now, to be honest, with Osimhen. Look, I think he's a top player, but I just can't get my head around it that he's the one Liverpool is going to go for. I don't know. I thought he would have been in England by now myself. I thought he had Chelsea all over him, Osimhen. But obviously no. I don't know. I don't see it happening with Liverpool. Obviously he's a top player. I know a few people, friends of mine, have said Osimhen would be a cracking buy. Look, I think one thing you get if you get him is you're getting goals. That's the truth. But the problem is that true with regards to, you know, the attitude thing? I don't know. If Liverpool went for him, then fair enough. That shows that he isn't a dickhead. Let's make no mistake about it. Because Liverpool wouldn't be buying him if he is a dickhead. I would not say no to him because I think he'd get more goals from the off over, you know, an Ekatike, pardon me, and a Sesko. So one thing for sure is, look, I don't think it'll happen. But if it did, teams would be shitting themselves at Liverpool going forward.
Yeah, I think for me, the big question mark over Osimhen has been that, you know, like we've said many times, there seems to be a feeling out there around the personality of him. I don't know where that stemmed from. I don't know why it's out there. You know, there's similar things we said about Ryan Gravenberch when we signed him that summer. He was lazy, he had an attitude problem, and you listen to Ryan Gravenberch now, and he's a phenomenal young man, brilliant. You know, and he's certainly not lazy. So he could be a victim of just that. But I mean, for me, you look at it, Rick. I mean, for the pros for Osimhen, I mean, what is he? He's 26, turning 27. So he's probably a little bit older. Don't get me wrong, the Liverpool would look at, but you could get definitely 3 good seasons out of him at the top. The guaranteed goals. You then get time to breathe and look at the young striker market over the next 2-3 years, because a year is not enough. You need a couple of years, even from a data perspective. You need to pull. There's a lot of pros for him to come to Liverpool, isn't there?
Yeah, like listen, if you're going off who's out there that's probably more established than most, he is one of the few. Won a league title everywhere he's been. Napoli, Galatasaray, smashed. Was he top goal scorer when Napoli won the league that year? I'm sure he was scoring every week. Every time I put a bet on Napoli, he was scoring. But like Benton, I wouldn't be disappointed if it was. I'll take him above Ekitike, Sesko, Gokares. I'll take Osimhen above them.
Would be exciting him in the front line with Wade.
Oh yeah, he would. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I just think it's the AFCON thing. You can't lose Salah and him at the same time, because what do you do then?
Well, I think if you go into AFCON and you've got Wirtz, you've got Frimpong on the right, Jota, and then Diaz covering the middle.
I don't think Diaz go if we got Osimhen.
That's why I think there's a lot of moving parts. I don't think it's going to be straightforward. I think certain players leaving will trigger certain targets. I know it sounds stupid, i.e. we get left winger, but I mean, I think Diaz leaving would have an influence on who Liverpool buys the 9. The problem is, I think the number 9 market is not great. It just isn't. You know, you've got Alexander Isak, the rest, and I think you've got to try and fish in that pool, because Isak's a dream target. It's who Liverpool want, but we have to be realistic, and it's a really tough deal to do. Really tough. So then you have to look at the best of the rest. And Ben, I want to ask you, because the Ekatike one, the kid's got bundles of talent, right? We can see that, and all the potential in the world, but that word potential is going to scare Liverpool. It's going to scare Liverpool fans, because Darwin Núñez came with a boatload of potential, and he hasn't fulfilled it. Do you think there is a world in which Liverpool do go for the more experienced one? And I don't just mean Osimhen. I think that, you know, Other names that have been mentioned,
Josh
i.e. Perez, even Ollie Watkins has been brought up to date, obviously more with Manchester United, but Premier League, a bit older. Do you think Liverpool would veer on that side, or do you think they will go Isaac or project player?
It is tough, isn't it? Because there's not really much coming out from legitimate now about the other names regarding players. I think they've got a lot of their eggs in the basket in the Isak one right now. I'm so they should look.
Yeah.
For this so-called he's not for sale, all I keep hearing is fucking northeastern fucking journalists talking and shit like that. Seems to be flapping around, do you know what I mean? If you weren't that worried, then why are you talking? Do you know what I mean? But look, at the end of the day, Liverpool have to make a stand and try and go for them. See what happens. If Liverpool are bidding, then you know what Isak is obviously behind the scenes saying something, because Liverpool aren't going to do it for the sake of it. They won't want to look stupid. Do you know what I mean? And ultimately, if you're going to put all that money on the table, you need the selling club to be near enough on the table as well. You can't just fucking say we'll give you whatever, and then they don't even fucking entertain it. Just look stupid then. Do you know what I mean? And then I do think you've got to be careful how you do it, because you lose a bit of credibility with your other targets. You see what happened with the Caicedo-Lavia thing. Now, I know that was a different time for Liverpool with regards to how the club was run, but ultimately, that's why they lost Lavia. Do you know what I mean? So we shall see what happens on that front. But look, obviously, with regards to Ekitike, they obviously really like him. Make no mistake about it. He's similar framing, the way he plays, similar to Isak. Obviously, he's not as good yet. But if they are going to go for him, they must have a lot of belief in him. And look, to be honest, they just need someone who can put the ball in the back of the net. So for all we know, this kid could hit the ground running. But my issue is, if you bring an Ekitike in, I don't think he starts the first game of the season, myself.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I'm going to bring this up. Mark, people that don't know Mark doesn't very often make good points. This one is quite a good one. So obviously, he's talking about the fact that Darwin Núñez, rightly so, was bought on the eye test, really. He performed well against Liverpool, even though he was caught offside, still under which he brought forward with him. Obviously, Ekitike would be a data-led signing. And rightly so, Mark said, how can we doubt them? You know, they do. It's why we bought them back, because we trust them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good point, Rick. It's a good point, isn't it? But I mean, there's obviously something stopping Liverpool pulling the trigger on the Ekitike deal. Do you think it's purely price?
No, I think it's Isak.
Yeah.
I think they're waiting for him to turn around and decide what to do. I think Liverpool will find out in the next 2 weeks if Isak is attainable. Now July 1st is here, you've got that new PSR stuff. Do not be surprised if we go for Isak back end of this week, next week, maybe the week after latest. But we will make a move. Because look, like Newcastle were struggling in the market. They couldn't sign a fucking freebie if it was chucked to him at the minute. But like Ben said, if we wanted Ekitike, we'd pull the trigger now on him. What's stopping us going to get him now? Nothing. Everyone knows we have the money to do it, because if we're being linked to Isak, everyone knows we have striker money. So there's nothing stopping us going to pull trigger on any of them. Ekitike, Osimhen, Godcarez, Sesko, Doreen from the canteen. There's nothing stopping us pulling a bid out for a striker and that. So it's only Isak. They're waiting for Isak. You've got a few.
You've got to make a play for it.
Yeah, like you just go in there, put a bid on the table, show you're serious, and then, like we said on the last show, whatever we buy Isak for, we'll fund Newcastle summer with PSR as well.
Well, they can't even fucking spend what they've got, so God knows what they've got planned.
Well, it don't help that they've got Eddie Howe and the third in charge at data recruitment doing it, because they've got no sporting director and they've got no top transfer guy. So it's them two doing it. Can you imagine Richard Hughes and Michael Edwards going in there next week, sitting across the room from Eddie Howe and going, we want to buy Isak? The geezer a melt. He don't know what he's doing.
Problem Newcastle have got is that they are in a situation where PSR is not breathing down their neck to the point where they have to sell to buy. But people know who own them. People know the money they've got. So they haven't got that much room with the PSR budget to be able to overpay for their targets. So, you know, they're talking about having to spend money to open up being able to overpay with PSRs, which is obviously what they don't want to do. It's not a very fun situation for them to be in. But I'm not in my usual setup, which is why I'm looking at my screen this angle, and I've got a picture of Queen behind me. I'm not a Queen fan. But one thing I want to show you this here that Ali's put up, and this is going back to the Isak stuff. Hughes and Edwards are, especially I think Michael Edwards is very good.
Hughes is best mate. Yeah, Hughes is best mate. How?
Yeah. Ben, if Isak was not for sale, and it was categorically he is not for sale, and again, I'm not saying Liverpool do the deal. This is shut down, isn't it, by Eddie Howe?
No, wouldn't he? It'd be a friendly chat, say, fuck off.
Yeah, leave that out.
Simple as that. Fuck off.
So at what point do Liverpool have to put a deadline on this? Because we're going to talk about it, and again, we can make whole podcasts about it. We can talk about it on social media. The journos are going to get their clicks, but Liverpool have to prepare. They have to go. They have to sort their number 9 out or their attack or whatever they go for. How long can Liverpool afford to wait for this Isak deal before they have to go, look, we got to walk?
Well, it can't be too late, you know what I mean? Yeah, like that comment says there, Ali said, Lewis Steele and Hughes, he would have known for ages if he wasn't for sale.
That's what I mean. He's always wrong.
Well, he does run the transfer side of it at the minute. Him and the number 3 data recruitment guy for Newcastle are running the transfers thing at the minute, so it is them too.
It's not even necessarily about that. It's like Slot would know that Wirtz was coming in, for example. Like, he didn't do the deal, but if he was chatting to his best mate down the pub that he trusts, he would go, yeah, we're going to get Florian Wirtz. The same as this, Eddie Howe's not going to sit there at the table with Hughes and negotiate the deal, but he would be sitting there going, look, they're not going to sell him. Don't fucking waste your time.
Yeah, no, he would be like that. Of course he would. And obviously it'd be the same situation if Howe was saying to fucking Hughes, do you reckon we can get Elliott out of Liverpool? He'd tell him. Do you know what I mean? So this sort of shit does happen as well. And obviously the finer details, it's a different route. But ultimately, Liverpool wouldn't be waiting if they didn't think they had half a chance. They obviously feel there is something there that can be done. Otherwise, they'd have bought fucking Ekitike by now. That's the truth. If Liverpool wanted Ekitike, they could have fucking had him. Do you know what I mean? People are talking about Liverpool maybe needing money to bring in. Look, if fucking Huijsen never went to fucking Real Madrid, he'd be sat in a Liverpool shirt now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There's another 50 million fucking quid. So, yeah, it is what it is. They're waiting because they obviously feel that there is something that they can potentially do. And I feel that's why Elliott's still at the club, because he was another one that could have went by now.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to ask you about this back, Ben, actually, on Elliott. Do you think there's an element of Liverpool that will hold certain players? This goes back to our outgoing conversation. Do you think there are certain players that Liverpool are holding back because they feel that they can utilise them in deals? I know we spoke about not necessarily doing a player exchange deal, but like we said, Quansah and Wirtz are a prime example of how it does get done. Do you think people like Elliott, like Doak, they see where they could use them and they might be holding them back?
Yeah, I think, there's certain options where the clubs probably think, well, we like that player from there, maybe we can utilise it. Doak, for instance, was wanted by Palace at one point, wasn't he? So, that could be something that could be utilised in the near future, which I do think will happen. I'm not saying Doak, but I'm not talking about Mark Gay. I've always felt though Elliott and Newcastle could be a good fit. Look, there was 2 players there that could have been a good fit, I thought, because they tried for Quansah, don't forget, last year. So we shall see. But look, Liverpool are waiting on Isak because they do believe there is half a chance. Otherwise, there'd be another striker down the middle right now. Forget about sales. They're going to come regardless. Liverpool have the money to go and test any of these clubs out if they want to play.
Absolutely. Right, Burke, you're coming on the pod anyway in the next couple of weeks, so you can have your say at that point.
The doctor will be on.
Dr. Burke. Rick, I just want to, we'll wrap up shortly because we always say we'll do an hour, and then for some, we might have to go live every day because every time it's been quiet, and every time we go live, something comes out about Isak or a striker. Every single time without fail. Rick, I just want to throw this question at you that's just coming from Ryan, because I think this is going to be pivotal to Isak moving is the fact that he's going to have to force a move. How extreme that looks to, asking to punch an Eddie Howe in the face, we don't know. But do you think he will force a move to move to Liverpool?
100%. I mean, I don't think he'll do it publicly. I think it'll be done behind closed doors. I think him and his agent will have a quiet word with Newcastle, say, listen, Liverpool won the league. They're going to be obviously favourites for the league next season. Champions League as well. He's 26 in September. He's probably looking at it thinking, if Liverpool sign a striker this summer and it ain't me, I won't be going there at all. And like you're seeing today, I know they ain't the biggest of journos, DiMarzio and I don't even know who the other geezer was, but he's saying that he's potentially told Newcastle already that he wants to move. I think they're back. When are they back? Wednesday, Thursday? I think Newcastle potentially. So something at a listen. Liverpool love a Friday. A Friday brief comes out every week. So it wouldn't surprise me if something comes out Friday about Isak and Newcastle. But yeah, I do think I don't think he puts a transfer request in, but I do think he tells Newcastle that listen, it's time. You're not bringing in the quality. Let me go, and you'll get decent money for me this summer.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we did do a semi-outgoing show, and it still ended up talking about Isak. It just seems to be impossible.
Could just be the fucking Isak show every week.
Red or Isak. Just gonna have to change the name of the show. But yeah, look, that's. I mean, we could. We'll obviously be on again later in the week. Obviously, it's conscious that he's an absolute sweat fest, and we'll let everybody go and enjoy the beer garden, enjoy the last bit of weather. But lads, as always, thank you for your time. We will try and get some more Isak talking this week, as it seems to be just the content that everyone enjoys and the content that we keep doing. But obviously, hopefully there's some more breaking news that comes out tomorrow. As we said, it's the PSR reset tomorrow, so that would be one that we'll do a pod on, whether it be tomorrow or Wednesday. We'll keep you guys updated. But boys, thank you ever so much. Great show as always. Comments, thank you ever so much for the interactivity. It's been brilliant. Obviously, we try and get around to you as many as we can. Like, comment, subscribe. It really helps the algorithm for the channel. And until next time, peace.